I just finished They Hate Each Other by Amanda Woody, and it was a very fun, although heavy, romantic ride. I'm Quinn Moon, I write queer fairy tales, and I love reading queer romances. And this was actually one of the funnest ones that I've read. Fun is maybe not the right word. My favorites. Better ones. Better ones is the better word. In this book, we follow Jonah and Dylan as they navigate high school as some of the few openly bisexual kids that have a less than ideal home life. Both of these characters from the onset we know cannot stand each other and are constantly thrown together because their best friends in the world are dating. The reason that these two characters dislike each other is because they're both dealing with a lot of trauma and a lot of baggage. Their coping mechanisms clash because of the trauma. Dylan is a very morose, quiet individual, thrives on control, doesn't like being the center of attention. If it were up to him, he'd be a very lovely wallflower. Jonah is on the opposite side. He is loud, boisterous. He needs to be the center of attention, not only because he feels loved in that light and admired, and he is celebrated where he isn't typically at home, but also because of the fragile nature of the stability or lack thereof in his personal life. Having this boisterous exterior makes him feel like if he can project that he is in control of the situation, that he is the center of it all, that he is the main character, it will somehow translate and people won't look too closely. Obviously, people know stuff at home isn't great for Jonah. However, stuff isn't great for Dylan at home either. Dylan is dealing with his own broken home life. He doesn't have a close relationship with his brother the way he used to due to things in his past that have caused the family to fracture. His mother is absent and doesn't know how to have a conversation with her son. His father is a workaholic that, while he loves and admires, cannot be present because he's always working and his mother is always out traveling for work. At the beginning of this book, Dylan has thrown a party and Jonah is drunk dancing on his table, fall over, Dylan kicks him out. Jonah stumbles back in, falls into his bed, and the next day, even though nothing has happened, rumors abound and they are both getting harassed by their friends about did something finally happen. Because of the fact that these two boys are currently just treading water and barely surviving their high school days, neither of them really has time or capacity for all of the haha, wink, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge jokes. So Dylan, in his means to establish order in his life, in his means to take control of a situation, decides that the easiest way to get out of this situation is say, fine, I told you so, let's fake date. They have a whole schedule planned out, they're in a breakup, and they never have to deal with each other again. Because they genuinely dislike each other because of their clashing coping mechanisms. It's extremely believable that these two kids would never like each other because they're the complete polar opposite and they don't have the capacity to learn about each other because they're too busy dealing with their own stuff. And unless they have to, which now they have to because they're fake dating, they just don't have time to extend that care to somebody else. Once they start fake dating though, they have to become more involved in each other's lives. They have fake dates they have to go through. Dylan has a really detailed agenda and plan for everything. They even have their breakup scheduled. Slowly, they both start, as is expected, influencing each other and the way that they interact, not only with their friends, but the way that they view the world. So Jonah appreciates the silence more, becomes less afraid of sitting in the silence now that he has Dylan. And Dylan learns to see and appreciate Jonah's happiness, his desire to make others happy, his love for his sisters. And as the relationship goes, Dylan and Jonah obviously start developing actual feelings for each other. The hiccup comes when Dylan is given the opportunity to help Jonah, even if it might mean losing him. So Dylan decides that, hey, we were supposed to break up. This is gonna hurt. But if it means that Jonah and his sisters have a better life, I will take it. We get to see a very real falling apart. They fall apart because of very tangible consequences to their everyday lives. The healing process afterwards is very in line with the two characters. We don't just jump back to, oh man, you were right the whole time, we're totally hunky-dory. Jonah is processing betrayal, trauma, that he needs to swallow his pride when that's all he had as he was scrambling to scrap his life together. And he's going through it in a very Jonah way, as Dylan also faces his own demons with his family. And he has to come to terms in phases, not like all at once, like, yeah, we're good, checked all the boxes, to understand the people around him, to grow as a person and have more introspection, because he was already an introspective character. But the ability to empathize and understand they are people too, and we're both hurting, doesn't make it right, but it means that we both have a journey to complete here. I found it very loving, very believable. I read that people were like, this is all trauma dumping. If one of these characters had baggage, had problems that were less severe than what was in this book, one of them would have been trivialized and it would have been very melodramatic, versus the very real consequences of their trauma, of the big crescendo of the book. It all has some of the most realistic and life-changing impacts that I've read in a young adult book. I also like that their first love scene wasn't detailed. It was focused on Dylan and Jonah making sure that they both loved each other. Also, I love the patience. I love the patience of Dylan and Jonah. Like, Jonah in his own way was dealing with stuff, but Dylan's patience waiting for Jonah with his own family, trying to be patient with himself, I really liked it. Like, that's so healthy. Hannah is also Dylan's best friend. She is asexual. And her relationship with Andre, who is Jonah's best friend, is so wholesome and beautiful and accepting and lovely. I really appreciated the healthy relationship representation throughout the book. The narrator was also really on point. I thought that it was really boring narration. No, we just started the book off with Dylan, who's a very morose, controlled character. But as soon as we flipped to Jonah, I knew immediately it was Jonah. I loved Jonah's voice. I loved the way that Jonah was just crazy and off the wall. I really appreciated that. I loved how much of a spaz he was. Super fun book. It does touch some pretty heavy topics, but I think this is one of the more believable fake dating books that I've read, because in the minds of two teenage boys who are barely keeping their head above water, I can see why this is the most logical next step to try to get the teasing to stop so they can go back, establish some form of control the only way that they know how. I don't know if I have anything that I didn't like about this book. I laughed, I cried, I cringed because some of the stuff they said. I'm like, oh, stop. I thought it was lovely and a very well read story, and the narration was great. So I might actually end up buying that audiobook. I don't know, but I had to buy the book. If you've read this book and you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it. If you read it and you did like it, tell me if there's another book just like this, because I am looking for not exactly this, but I want a YA that isn't, typically I would say I want the stakes to be like Homecoming or something like that. I didn't mind that these were real world stakes. I appreciated that, and the severity of the consequences of everything that was happening. So I really enjoyed it. Thought it was a lot of fun. Would love to hear what you thought and have some awesome discussions around this book that I genuinely really enjoyed. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Catch you next time. Bye!